Savage Dragon 76 from June of 2000. This is the first issue in a bold new direction, This Savage World. And this retro trade dress is the first indication that things have changed for this book. Of course, this is an homage to the 1970s Marvel Comics group banner that would run along the top of every Marvel comic, along with a character name in the top left corner, along with the price and the issue number, and a small image of the character in a little circle. And so this was the era that Larson was reading comics as a child. So obviously he has some nostalgia and reverence for the look of these comics. And this was back when comics were sold on the racks at newsstands. So that upper section may be the only visible part of a comic to a potential customer. So you want to load that section with as many identifiers as you can fit. And this sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole. So Larson would continue to use this retro style for about 25 issues, all the way to issue 100 before dropping the banner off of the cover here in the year 2002. And that's the same year that Mike Allred would also use that similar design for the cover of X-Statix #1. So great minds think alike, I guess. But then Larson would take a break from using this as the trade dress all the way to the year 2020, which is strange because I always associated this look with Larson. You know, if you jump ahead 200 issues in 25 years to issue number 276, you can see that it's still very much in effect here, as well as in semi-recent issues of Ant that Larson was a part of, and this Astro City special. And it's funny because Marvel would also start to reuse this retro look fairly recently. Like here, we got Tradd Moore's Doctor Strange and this Thor one-shot, this Roxxon Presents. Anyway, I could talk about this stuff all day, so I will move on. The point is, we've got a new look at the cover here. And more shocking changes on the inside. The credits have been moved to page 1 over here, so that just leaves a whole bunch of white space, film output by Quantum Letter Effects, and Josh Eckhorn, who didn't notice that the lights were stoned. I think that's a Beatles reference or something, but whatever, fuck the Beatles. We have our first steps into This Savage World. So the retro design does not stop at the cover. Erik Larsen has completely renovated this into like a Bronze Age Marvel comic. So starting with the Stan Lee intro at the top here. The world is not as it was. Earth as we know it has changed in strange and inexplicable ways. Now, as the dragon awakens, he finds himself trapped in this savage world. It begins here, a bold new chapter in the life of Savage Dragon. So I love the title treatment here. Looks really dope. And I think this is the charred corpse of Baby Darklord back there. So last issue, 75, Dragon crushed his head with his bare hands. And that's how we got into this mess. Our credits at the bottom here, we got story and art by Erik Larsen, of course, with Chris Eliopoulos letters, Rude and Motown on colors. And this is kind of another callback to old school newsstand comics because there was a mentality back then to make this first page almost like a secondary cover because many times you would find these comics with their covers removed because the newsstand retailers could return them to the publisher for a refund. So that's one of the reasons that you'll see quarter bins full of coverless comics. Now here is a double page splash revealing this new environment. Pillars of flame littering the barren wasteland, collapsed rubble of a long-gone civilization. Got some giant winged creatures patrolling the skies. Looks like fun. So 2 more notes on the design here. You'll notice first there's no bleed on this page. There's a definite border for these pages. So, full bleed comics are more of a modern device, and there won't be any of that in this book. Also, we have page numbers. It's page 3 right there, but all the pages are numbered, or most of the pages are numbered. It used to be pretty standard, but that was abandoned in modern comics, but Larson is bringing it back. As well as a couple more old school comic storytelling devices that appear on this page. We got thought balloons and captions from an omniscient third-person narrator. These have been used kind of sparingly in this comic before, but nothing to this degree. The overall effect of this storytelling choice and design, it kind of transports the reader into a similar experience of reading like a 1970s Jack Kirby comic like Commandy. And to drive this point home, Larson includes a Commandy cameo. There's this blonde-headed, shirtless kid that Dragon is chasing in these denim shorts. Now, this guy's built as Wild Boy, but that's fucking Commandy. Anyway, Commandy leads Dragon right into a trap room full of ugly monsters. Dragon was looking for answers, but instead he got a fight. And you'll notice the old school panel design here, standard layouts, 4-panel page, 5-panel page, none of the dynamic panel designs that Image Comics and Erik Larsen are known for. Larsen mentions that these limitations or constraints could be helpful in like strengthening his visual storytelling. If you can't rely on splashy, crazy page layouts, it kind of forces you to make every square panel as engaging and comprehensible as possible. So Dragon is in a battle with all these Savage World freaks, and he crashes through the floor, and he's confronted by this giant red spider. Luckily, he is able to escape, and he takes the spider with him. And the spider starts gobbling up some of the freaks who attack the dragon. So being a hero, Dragon rescues these dorks and throws the spider back to from whence he came. And all the freaks have scattered, so nobody can answer Dragon's questions. And then he's attacked by a dragon rider. So this dude starts chucking lightning bolts at him with his bare hands. And then Dragon returns fire with a rock. He beans this fucker right in the head, killing him, sending him crashing to Earth, where Dragon steals his ride. So we got Dragon riding a dragon. And he takes to the air, and it's from this vantage point that the dragon realizes that he's in Chicago. Everything is destroyed, but there's definite landmarks that he recognizes, so that's interesting. Anyway, his flight is stopped short when some dickheads fire some kind of weapon at our guy, and it kills the dragon, the flying one, not the titular character. So Dragon is pissed off, and he figures out who fired the shots. He stomps up the stairs of the book depository here. Then these dudes jump him. They got the element of surprise, but Dragon is too powerful, so he smashes their heads together like a couple of coconuts, trashes these dudes, but still no answers. Just more weird shit. Like this fucking 6-legged lizard dude with these giant chompers. Looks like he bites the dragon in half, and he's controlled by some kind of weirdo puppet master over here who starts talking about looting Dragon's body for weapons and food. But once again, Dragon is too strong to die, and he punches his way out of the lizard's guts. And he makes his way to his old neighborhood, where he hopes to find Jennifer at home sitting on the couch, I guess. But instead, he's greeted by a giant crater that conveniently comes right up to the welcome mat there. And that's where we leave it, with the promise of something wild next. On to Fanatics, where Larsen throws out a welcome mat of his own for any new readers that are joining us. And he reassures long-term followers of the comic that they will see a return of some familiar characters in this new Savage World. I missed Robert Kirkman a couple issues ago, who wrote in, and so I'm on the lookout for any other comic pros who write into the letters page. And here's one, Brent Engstrom. And this is an illustrator who would go on to work on Garbage Pail Kids cards, as well as backup features in issues 104 and 105 called Savage Dragon Boy. I think Larsen colored these pages himself. It's pretty cool. So we got about 3 pages of letters, followed by this new feature, Image Insider. This is like the Marvel bullpen bulletins back in the day. It's like including a checklist of all the Image comics coming out this month. Let's take a look to get an idea of what the comics landscape was like. Looks like we got 4 Witchblade comics. Got about 3 Spawn comics, Fathom 13, a bunch of these Guerrilla Press books like Section 0, Shock Rockets, Kiss Psycho Circus number 31. I had no clue that book ran so long. Holy shit. A lot of the stuff I've never heard of. We got F5, Blood Legacy, Red Star, Sapphire, etc. Which brings me to this editorial by Erik Larson. That's Stan's soapbox here. Building a better funny book. I'm going to quote this. A lot of folks talk about what's working and what isn't in comics. Rather than talk about it, I'm going to do something about it. In some ways, Savage Dragon has been part of the problem. I've failed to remember that any issue is somebody's first. Starting with issue 76, everything changes, and each and every issue will become a far more coherent and inviting for new readers. I'm placing Dragon in a new world, like No Man's Land meets The Road Warrior. A world where anything can happen, where anything goes, and it's wild as all hell. I've done a lot of comics in my career, and Dragon is by far the one that thrills me the most. This is my dream book, and the dream never ends, and it can't be taken away, and that is the best kind of dream to have. End quote. So I shortened some of that, but yeah, Larson is obviously excited about this book and wants to spread joy to new readers, so we'll see how that goes. And if you're a new reader, obviously you'll want to catch up, perhaps with this collected edition advertised on the next page, followed by a pinup of Larson himself, or by Larson, not of Larson. Anyway, looks like a scrapped cover idea, or maybe a splash page or something. Got Dragonbert by Carl H., all about improving sales figures. So there must have been something in the air at the time. Tough time for comics. Tough time for Mighty Man, or Megaton Man. Not even featured in his own backup story. Finally, there's Desperate Times, which is also new reader friendly. In this issue, we got a rundown of all the characters and their quirks. Some funny stuff here by Chris Eliopoulos. We got an ad for the next 4 issues, including issue 77 next week. Adios.